of the cardboard. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're going over one of the new, really cool new decks that I'm actually a really big fan of. It's Dynomorphia. If you have not seen them, they came out, they debuted in Battle of Chaos, and they just got their 2 new cards, which includes their new Fusion Boss Monster Rexsturm, as well as their new Fusion Trap card, which is absolutely bonkers. That card's actually crazy. It is a starter. It is a 1-card Kentragina plus Rexsturm, and it's crazy. It only costs you 6,000 life points, but that's what the deck wants to do. It wants to pay a lot of life points because the deck has cards that get stronger the lower your life points get, so you know, it is actually good for the deck. But yeah, really cool. The deck's in a really cool spot. Can't wait to show you because I also have some pretty cool spice in here that I'm excited to show you as well. And yeah, let's just jump into this thing. So starting off with our Dynomorphia lineup, our monsters, we have triple copies of Theresia and double copies of Diplos. You don't know what these do because this is like, the deck wasn't even, I would argue the deck wasn't even that playable with the first wave, but this wave makes them so much better. They have like a legitimately powerful win condition now. But yeah, Theresia is kind of like your Marionetter on normal or special. It'll set any Dynomorphia trap straight from the deck, so that's really good. And then Diplos, when he's normal or special, he can send any Dynomorphia card from deck to grave. Unfortunately, there's not any great send targets right now, but like, there are some utilities. Half the time you're just setting up a Theresia in grave, because their other effects are that if they're destroyed, you can destroyed by anything, they can banish any trap from grave to then special summon another Dynomorphia from your graveyard. Which is really good. So they can kind of just float into each other. It makes the deck a lot more annoying for people to like actually break through with these types of effects. And yeah, overall they're pretty good. Diplos before was a mandatory 3 of, but I think you don't need to play them at 3 because the new trap lets you send 1 material from extra deck, which means you don't have to, you're not sending 2 from deck every time. So you don't need to just have as many names as possible. He's not as ideal to open. So I feel good about dropping 1 copy of him. Then for the spice, we add 1 Miscellaneousaurus and 1 Dracaeolo to our lineup here. Really interesting play. So ideas for this, I saw a profile, a really early profile. Shoot, I can't remember his YouTube name, but if I remember it, I'll put it in the description below. So check it out because he had a really early profile. And it gave me the inspiration for this package, but he did something a little different. So he was just playing a bunch of 3 copies of like Emergency Teleport so that he could just fire out a Ghost Ogre. And so what that would allow you to do is kind of make your board even stronger when you open Theresia, to just be able to go like normal Theresia, get the really good new trap. Then you'd be able to just E-Tele out an Ogre and go into a Halki Fibrax line. You don't need Theresia on field at all, but when you go into this Halki Fibrax line, it allows you to facilitate like putting 2 to 3 more interruptions on your board, and you'll see when we get to the extra deck, and I'll show you also at the end of the video like what the play would look like when you do it. So Dracaeolo is really the only brick in the entire deck, I would say. But I think it's a worthwhile card considering like the deck didn't play any bricks anyway. And Miscellaneous also helps you resolve like crucial things at times like Theresia or Kentragina if your opponent has a certain hand trap for either. Being able to pitch this and just protect them is really huge. And you can even like search this and then just hold it. And then if your opponent has a card that would like out Rexsturm, you can like pitch this to protect those cards in those situations as well. So this card like honestly just comes up so well, and you'll see later on what happens with that. But finishing up the monster lineup, I'm on 2 Ash, 1 Ghost Ogre, and double Lord of the Heavenly Prison. These 3, I guess. Simple hand traps. You only need the 1 Ghost Ogre for that play. Keep in mind, when you summon this off of Halki Fibrax, Halk only negates the monster it summons till the end of the turn. So then this will be live on the opponent's turn, and Ogre's the only Ghost Girl that can also send itself from field to do the disruption effect. And that does add to an interruption to your board, which is really nice. Then you have Ash Blossom, obviously, just simple. I mean, it's Ash. You could easily try and play more traps instead of this, or a more impactful hand trap. It's Ash. You know, I had 2 more slots. It's a nice card. Hitting stuff like Branded Fusion. We're in a more mid-rangey kind of meta game right now, so being able to just hit high-impact spells is like really good. And then Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Before you might have played 3 of this card because you kind of need to lean on it a lot more, but I think just the deck's so much more powerful that you don't have to fully lean on this. I think 2 feels fine. It's really good to see, but if you don't see it, it's not a huge deal. but it is a nice addition. Allows you to kill your opponent at times, allows you to get crazy follow-up at times when you need it, and it is still a really good card, so I wanted to get it in there. So that's it for the monster. I think that's only 12 in the main. Then we move to the spell lineup. I'm on triple copies of Fossil Dig, triple copies of Prosperity, and 1 Called by the Grave. Good news, if you are a budget player, Prosperity is not mandatory at all. I really don't believe it's mandatory in any way, shape, or form. I think it's nice, especially with the ability to like do this new play that I'm going to show you guys at the end with like Hauki Fibrax. But other than that, it's just like, oh, if you didn't open Theresia, or maybe Theresia got impermed or veilered, and or you just didn't open one of the traps that get you into the fusions, so that this card can kind of dig for those. Other than that, it's just digging you for nice utility cards. It's just consistency, so it's nice. And also post side, this card makes your deck a little bit better going second, because you're able to like dig for like high impact, you know, side deck cards, so I like that as well. And then Called is weird. Normally with decks like this, I wouldn't even worry about playing Called, but I do think just because like specifically Ash Blossom is really annoying, because Ash can hit both of your trap cards and you need them to resolve, at least one of them to resolve. So because of that, this is great. And then just in other matchups, like it's generally going to be good. It can just function as another trap card anyway. Just set it and use it to, you know, hit something that you know, interrupt your opponent versus Eldritch is really good, which can be an annoying deck for a deck like this. You know, all the recursion and everything, but being able to hit Golden Lords, like stuff like that. It's just a nice card. I think it fits pretty well. And the overall idea, real quick, to go back to this package, is that when you open so before I already wanted to play 3 Fossil Dig that got me access to Theresia, but like in certain test hands I would just open like double Fossil Dig, and the second Fossil Dig just like literally sat in your hand. You would want to hold it, you're like, I guess I can just grab another Theresia next turn, but that's not really what I wanted it to do. I wanted to have the potential in those kinds of hands to be able to like push further and do more things. And so adding Miscellaneous Source 1 guarantees that Theresia is resolving at least turn 1. And also allows extension past that point. Like, it's honestly crazy. You get to do so much more when you go through this play. So I felt like overall it was absolutely worth. It makes it so that you want to see double Fossil Dig, you want to see Fossil Dig plus Theresia, and it doesn't feel like you're just seeing redundant cards in your opening hand. So I really like that. Plus, like, the bricks in the deck is literally just Aolo. Like, oh, I have to play Ogre? Like, great. It's just an okay hand trap anyway. So yeah. Just wanted to go through that and explain that a little bit more. Hopefully that makes sense, and I'll show you the play at the end too. Okay, moving on to the trap lineup. For the Dynomorphia traps, we play triple of the new one, Frenzy. It's really funny because this one's an Ultra, and the one from the last set, Domain, is a secret, and this one is like twice as good as this one. I mean, maybe not twice as good, but like it's better for sure. Then for the utility cards, 1 Brute, 1 Sonic, and 1 Alert. I think before this set, I would have honestly played like maybe 2, 2, and 2 of these, because I just like these, and these would be gettable off of like Trap Trick and stuff. But because of where the deck is now, and because like resolving just one of these gets you like such a powerful like win condition anyway, that these are just kind of nice to have. So it's kind of like if you already opened one or both of the fusions and you have Theresia is just grabbing you one of these 3, whichever one like you want for any given scenario. But they're really good. So if you don't know, Frenzy's the new fusion. It lets you fuse by sending 1 monster from deck and 1 monster from extra deck. That's absolutely insane, for sure. This one lets you send monsters just straight from deck. And this is a Dryden by popping a Dynomorphia. This is a Spell or Trap Negate by popping a Dynomorphia. And this can target Dynomorphia monsters in grave whose total levels are 8 or lower and reborn them. So that can be either any one of the fusions, or both, or 2 different main deck names in grave. But it's a really good follow-up card, especially since we play like the Evilzars. So when you get to this, like it feels really broken in the grind game. But yeah, really, really good. I love that they have a card like Sonic, because it means stuff like evenly matched, Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster isn't as impactful post side, because you do have, you know, in archetype ways, especially with like Golden or Lord of the Heavenly Prison and other things. And I'd probably side Judgment as well, just so you can see more cards when you know you're going first post side that just completely answer cards like that. Moving on here, we have some generic traps, triple infinite impermanence. This adds to our little hand trap lineup there. It's just a good card, man. It's a trap. It's a way to like get a trap engrave immediately so that Theresia and Diplos can start floating as fast as possible. But it's good, and it's also good with some of the going second traps where like if you're going second and you like set one of the fusion traps and this, you're able to like activate the fusion trap. That is a must negate for your opponent almost every time, and so you can chain impermanence to make sure it resolves. Like stuff like that, protecting those kinds of plays is pretty good, all in all. Triple Torrential Tribute and double Ferret Flames as well. These are your mass removal generic cards. I feel good about this ratio. There was a part of me that kind of went back and I was like, Ferret Flames is just like, oh, it's so powerful. The problem with Ferret Flames is going second. When you go second, it is not as easy for you to get your life points that low. And so when you can't get your life points like super low, super quick against your opponent, like they kind of negate the first card. Like if they negate like the first trap that tries to like, you know, fusion trap or whatever, and you don't even get, and you only get to pay your life points once, that's a 4,000 cap. If you don't know how this card works, it says you force your opponent to shuffle monsters they control back into the deck so that the total attack of the monster they control is less than your life points. Well, this deck only after resolving one of those fusions essentially will get you down to at least 2,000, which means they can't control a total of more than 2,000 attack points, which for like a Sword Soul board, like literally forces them to shuffle all their monsters back into the deck. So, you know, it's stuff like that. And once you get under 1,000, it just every time says shuffle every monster you control back into the deck. It's really powerful. But going second, because it's harder to just get your life points super low, super quick, this card is a little more dead. So I didn't want to max out on it. Torrential feels a lot better in those scenarios. Plus Torrential hitting your own monsters can just let them float and just get you a ton more resources. It's really good. I feel like Torrential is definitely the 3 out of the 2 if I had to pick. I also played one trap trick. I just like this. It's a cool one of in the deck that just can be a 7th copy of your fusion traps for consistency. It can grab you Imperm, Torrential, or Ferret Flames as well. I don't play 2-ofs of any of the other Dynomorphia utility cards. It just didn't feel worth just to make the 1-of trap trick a little bit better. But I still like it as a feisty 1-of. It can just be anything. But if you play more than one, you risk seeing it too often and like making other traps dead, which you don't want to do. And the final trap in the main deck is Solemn Strike. This one could be a little iffy to some people. This is a card you want to see in your opening hand, but it's not really a card you want to ever see later on in the duel because, like I said, just by resolving one of those traps, you're probably going to get down to 2,000 immediately. And then from that point, if you use any other Dynomorphia trap, you're going to go back down to 1,000, in which case this card cannot even activate. You can't even pay cost for it. So you want to see this early, but man, is it important. Man, it's so important. Couple reasons. Going first, this card protects your Dynomorphia cards. So like I said, Ash is a huge pain in the ass. If your opponent just holds Ash and says, you know what, I'm just going to Ash either their Domain or their Frenzy, and if they can't get to their Rex turn, they can't really win. And they're not entirely wrong, depending on most scenarios. So this can negate Ash in those scenarios, which is really nice. And also going second. If we're going to have to set a bunch of traps into a board going second, this card allows your stuff to resolve. Specifically, Torrential and or Ferret Flames. Those are like the high impact, like just break a board. And as long as you have this set, you're probably just going to break the board immediately, which is really good. So really, really good. I think it's good going second. It's good going first. You just need to see it early. If you see it late, it is what it is. It's just probably bad, but I still think it's worth the play in the main. All things considered. So no judgment. I would side it, to be honest. Like, I just don't think you're going to run into a ton of like those big back row wipe cards game 1. So I think it's like totally fine to side and bring in maybe like anti-spell as well to just stop stuff like Harpy's Feather Duster and or Lightning Storm. That stuff is really annoying. So stopping those is really good. But yeah, really, really cool. That's it for the main deck. 40 cards there. Moving to the extra. For the Dynomorphia cards, triple Rex Term, triple of our Kentragina, and 2 copies of Stealth Bergia. So as far as these go, I almost wanted to play just 3, 3, and 3 just because now the new fusion sends from extra. So theoretically, when you resolve the new fusion, you would summon Kentragina first by sending like a Stealth Bergia. So put it over here. Then you would use Kentrogina's effect, banishing the same fusion from grave to fusion again, and then you'd summon Rex Term, sending another Stealth Barrier, and looking at that, you literally just have four materials left in grave. So if you want to do that same play again, you'd only have the exact amount like necessary to do it. And so by playing the last one, it would just give you a little bit of extra wiggle room there. Now you don't have to do this line every time, because you can go with the new fusion, you can go straight into Rex turn, right? You could just go like send, like just straight up send a Stealth Barrier one from deck to go right into Rex turn. But if you want that extra value, right, for like higher impact, or if you're doing like the Hulk play, you do kind of want Kentrogina to come out. So that definitely can come up. But I feel like this is a pretty good number. I didn't want to really like play any less than this. I think this is the reason why you don't want to play Extravagance. If you banish like 2 of any of these, especially like Rex term, it means like if your opponent outs the first Rex term, you're probably just like out of Rex terms. Like you're probably just not getting Rex term again. Unless you can bait them into like popping your other Dynomorphia cards or find your way to alert. But I don't know. This feels good. Like nothing too crazy. Oh, also, if you don't know what Rex Term does, he says your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life points. So that's why the deck wants to get the life points nice and low. You can only use each of his following effects of him once per turn. Quick effect, you can pay half your life points. The attack of all monsters your opponent controls become equal to your life points. So they essentially get negated. So even if their even if their attack points are higher or lower, you can chain this and make them equal, which is really good. So then they'd be negated and make them hopefully smaller. Because if you're summoning him, you should already be at 2,000, and then he can beat over anything. And then if this card's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a level 6 or lower Dynomorphia. So he floats as well if they have to destroy him. He's an insane card. He does everything for you. So good. All right, 1, Evilzar, Dolka, and Logia. This is mostly for alert, but you could still just find yourself in a situation where you just end up floating, maybe off of a Rex Term or a Kentrogina, and then like have another Dynomorphia in hand. So you can just normal summon it, get some value, and then make one of these. This is your spell trap / summon negator, and this guy is a non-once per turn monster effect negator, so just double monster negates. Really strong. 1 Crystron Halki Vibrax. This is the final package here, and to go with him, you have TG Wonder Magician pairing with Psychic and Punisher, as well as Formula Synchron and Draco Berserker of the 10E. These packages generally go together because what you do is when you resolve Frenzy, Frenzy's going to get you into Kentrogina. Let's move these over here real quick. Kentrogina. Then Kentrogina is going to banish the Frenzy to summon out Rex Term. And then you kind of just have Kentrogina on the field. She's a level 6 body. So if you do the play for Hulk, you tag it out. And I'll show you that real quick right now to kind of finish it up. That's the rest of the extra deck. So let's say we open, just for example, double Fossil Dig, right? So we're going to use the first Fossil Dig, and we're going to go ahead and search ourselves Theresia. Then we're going to use the second Fossil Dig and search Miscellaneous Source. The reason why we do this already, is search this immediately, is so that our opponent knows we have Misk, so even if they have Imperm or Veiler, they do not try to use it on Theresia because they know they're just going to waste it anyway. So from here, we're just going to go normal Theresia. Theresia is going to guarantee us Frenzy to the field. Really good. This can't be ashed, by the way. Then we're going to pitch Miscellaneous Source. We definitely wait till that resolves so that if we fire it, they can't like chain Imperm or Veiler there. And then we banish the Miscellaneous Source, and this will summon out Jirake Olo straight from the deck. And now we can make Halki Firex. You can also make a Synchro 5, but I just don't think there's many that are going to be worth it. So we summon Hulk. Hulk is going to trigger and summon out the Ogre. And now Ogre is just an interruption on the opponent's turn. Do not forget that. That's one of the coolest parts about this play, is once it passes to our opponent, this will be live. So it's just, we just have an Ogre and a Frenzy already with Hulk. So even if like we didn't do the Synchro, we'd be good. But when our opponent's turn comes around, we're going to Frenzy. And that's going to start by, we're going to send a Diplos. And we're going to send a Kentrogina, or not a Kentrogina, send a Stealth Barrier, and then we're going to summon out Kentrogina. Kentrogina is then going to banish the Frenzy Engrave to do it again, right? We're going to send another monster from deck and extra deck, so we'll send the other Stealth Barrier, and we'll send probably just a second Theresia to grave. And from that point, we'll fusion out the Rex turn. So now we have this setup, and we're in a really good spot, because now we already have Rex turn, the Ogre, and technically Halki 5-Rex. Even though it's Rex term says your opponent can activate effects, like you still have the Ogre as a backup if they have a way to like out the Rex term at the very least. So from here, we'll use Halki 5-Rex effect, and we will tag out when our opponent tries to do some shenanigans. And that's where you choose either TG Wonder Magician or Formula Synchron. Now, the difference here was I do think TG Wonder Magician is generally better, but she is a mandatory back row pop. So if your opponent does not have a spell or trap card on the field, you'll be forced to pop your own spell or trap card, which we're probably setting back row. We don't always want to do that. So if our opponent didn't give us a good spell or trap to pop, then like maybe you don't want to go for this play. Instead, you can go for the Formula Synchron, where you summon Formula. Formula triggers to draw one card, and then you'll Synchro. It's the same idea. This will Synchro a 5 and a, because these are both Synchro tuners that give you a quick Synchro effect. So you can either do a 5 and a 6 or a 2 and a 6. So you're going for an 11 or an 8. Most of the time you do a TG. So let's say we do a TG, we pop a spell or trap. Let's say that playing it's a branded or a adventure deck, and we pop like the Fateful Adventure. Cool. Get them from a search potentially, hopefully. And then we'll quick Synchro this and this into Psychic End Punisher, the other new boss monster. I didn't even really highlight him much. He pretty much says if your life points are lower than your opponent's, he's a Towers, which is broken in this deck because your life points are always lower than your opponent's. Also, at the start of the battle phase, he gains attack equal to the difference in your life points and your opponent's. So you'll probably be at like 2,000 or 1,000 potentially, and your opponent will, so he'll gain 7,000 probably. 6 or 7,000 during the battle phase. And so he helps you just really super easily kill on the next turn, as well as just be a 3,500 towers pretty much for the whole duel. Or you do the same thing, but with the formula. So you'll do formula, summon it, and do a quick synchro for an 8 after you draw. You're also drawing a card, which is really important. You can go for Draco Berserker. It's a decent interruption. It says if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can just chain this to banish that monster, whether it's from hand or grave. So it's good versus like some of the 10E monsters, which can be annoying to trigger, to like mess around with Rex term. Or what else. So really cool. And then also he can like attack 2 monsters and deal a bunch of damage. So he's cool. I also thought about like Cyframe Lord Omega. If you want to just play hand control with the Synchron, with the formula strategy, you'd be able to like draw a card, make Omega, and then rip a card from your opponent. So you could definitely go that route instead. Obviously the extra deck's a little bit tight with this package, trying to play 2 different options, but you know, feel free to pick any Synchro 8 you want. I like this because it was interruption, but you could definitely do the Omega route if you wanted. But hopefully that gives you an idea that like this would be your opponent's essentially skill drained. You have an Ogre as backup, and then you're going to pop one of their spell traps or draw a card just for extra value, and then get to either one of these. So just the value off of this is so good. You're just really taking like a simple 1-card play, adding a second card to it that otherwise, if you didn't play this package, would have been completely redundant in your hand, and actually turning it into like 2 to 3 more interruptions, or at least 3 probably pieces of value, whatever you want to call them, you know, back row pop, a draw for you, or, you know, whatever. So really, really cool. I think this is such a cool package. I think this feels really good in the deck. I don't think it's too bricky. It's just the Aeolo. Other than that, like, you just really don't want to draw the Misk by itself without any other like dinos. But, you know, other than that, that's like pretty easy to do. So really, 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 really cool. I like this deck a lot. I actually think it's one of the better trap decks in the game right now, like just in general. I think like it's probably one of the top tier trap decks just overall in the game. I really think it's pretty strong. But of course it's matchup based. Decks that like Eldritch that just don't really care about skill drain that much obviously kind of punish it. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're playing it, and maybe side for those kinds of matchups just in case. So yeah, really, really cool. Obviously, you know, this is just my first iteration of the build. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts just on the build in general, what other suggestions you might have to add to the build. And yeah. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm out of here. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more deck profiles from your boy down the line. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.